Hello. Um, I'm here to show you how to make a pendant with wire. So this is a really cool piece of dendritic fern in quartz. I wish it would focus better, but anyways, it's a really cool stone. I'm gonna set this in tin copper, which is a square 21 gauge wire. Anywhere between 21 and 24 is suitable for a stone this size. So you can see it is quite small if you compare it to my thumb. Um, and I'm gonna do two half round sections only because it is a smaller stone. So I'll probably do one somewhere around here and somewhere down here. These are 6-inch pieces of half round, and then for making the bail, I'm using a 10-inch piece of half round wire. You can use your discretion and play with that, but generally for beginners with a larger stone, I would say start with 3 wraps and make them between 6 and 8 inches, depending on how large the stone is. So, say the stone was about yay big, 3 inches long or so, you might want your half round sections to be 8 inches instead of 6 inches, and then 8 to 10 inches for your half round for your bail. So, I've cut all of my wires already. They're all 2.5 times the outside circumference of the stone. With smaller stones, you can get away with that. With larger stones, if they aren't too big, you can go with 3 times. And if they go really big, then go back down to 2 or 2.5 times outside circumference of the stone. Again, using your discretion and playing with that. It's better to have too much than too little, especially if you're not using the sterling silver wire. That way, if you have leftovers to cut off, that's a lot better than not having enough wire to finish your piece. So make sure you have the round side on the outside of your half round wire. And normally I would suggest taping both sides, but I've done this quite a few times, so I'm just going to do it by hand. And just use the tension of my own fingers to hold it in place. So I'm wrapping just to the side of the center to start. So you always start in the middle and work your way to the sides. So I'm wrapping. You can see I can see what's going on every time I turn. And once you get faster, you won't have to flip it every single time you squish. But I suggest flipping, turn, don't bring it all the way down. It's a good key to pay attention to. Make sure that your pliers are doing the squishing and you'll get a more close, accurate wrap. And as you can see, my hands have kind of figured out the positioning that works best for me, and over time you'll figure it out for yourself too. So always finish your cut of the wire with the flush part facing inwards to where you're cutting, like so. I'm going to snip, and when I snip, I'm doing it approximately in the middle of the underside of this smiley face, or you might want to call it a rainbow. So that way it won't scratch or irritate. And the first wrap that you did, it's best to either completely unwind it and tuck it in, or you can unwind it, pull it tighter, and bring it around to the back. And you'll cut that off as well. So it looks something like this. So before I start my second wrap, I'm going to mold it around the rock. I'm using my fingers. Some people prefer to lay the stone flat. To mold it around, it feels easier. For me, I like to hold it so that I can do little tiny turns and without overworking it. It can be tricky around the edges to not create sharp points. So it's better to do a bunch of little tiny gentle turns than to make one big turn around the bottom. And this way it'll start to mold around the rock so that when you start your next wrap, you're not actually wrapping straight wires, you're wrapping ones that are on a slight angle. So you can see here, if I hold it up, that it's starting to wrap around the rock, and I'm going to do my next wrap. A little bit, probably just below where my index finger is. You can use black Sharpie, one of those fine tip ones, to make a little mark on your wire to distinguish where you're going to start your next wrap section. I like to wing it myself, unless I'm doing a really small, precise measurement. Got to make it the same, either making matching earrings or wrapping a faceted stone that needs a lot of accuracy. Usually I just eyeball it myself when I'm working with a basic stone. It makes the results more fun. In my first wrap I got lucky and it was quite tight, so I'm not going to unwind it and cut it off or even pull it tight, because it is tight, and it's always a bonus when that happens. Feel free to pause the video if you need to re-watch things. Okay, so there's my setting. So it looks like that. This is where the green tape, the painter's tape, comes in handy. But I'm just trying to show you how it's going to end up. So both of these tips, you see where they cross up there, I'm going to try to get that to line up with a point. Teardrops are the easiest to wrap because you don't have to worry about figuring out where the center of the stone is like you would with a round or an oval shaped stone or anything. This tells you where the center is, and that's where you'll lift your wires up to make your bail. So I'm going to do that now. Usually what I do is I press them one side at a time, bring it up accurately, and again, this is where the black fine tip Sharpie would come in handy. And make sure that your pliers, because unless you're using flat nose pliers, if you're using these chain nose pliers, they're not straight. They go from thick to thin. So when you do your flip up of your wires, make sure that they're at the right angle to make them straight across, instead of just grabbing it and then flipping it. Now just pay attention to it all being in line with the top. And I straighten. It's best to do them all at the same time if you can. See, and no one's perfect. Mine is not quite accurate. So if that happens to you, where they're a little off-centered, this, like that, all you have to do is take the wires from the side that is too short and gently, one motion, straighten it out again, and then come up a little bit higher. One motion, flip it back up again. And now now the wires do meet. There. Now the wires touch one another and the stone fits in there just nicely. Now it's okay if your stone falls out. When you start doing the bail, wrap it in green tape. so that way you don't have to worry about your stone falling out. Wrap it right to the point where you can still see the connection and you can still work with that point where the wires meet. So that's how you do the beginner step, and then I'll have another video for the bail. Okay, happy wrapping.